Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and I'll be with you, God willing, for the next 2 hours, having, I hope, a scintillating conversation about all that is happening in Nevis and St. Kitts in the Caribbean and in the wider world. Good evening to the beautiful people of Nevis, those of St. Kitts, those who are all across the Caribbean, particularly our Nevisian brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora. I say good evening to them. Our Kittitian brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora, good evening to you as well. Good evening to our fans and friends in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom. I know that we have regular listeners, and I bid you good evening. It's a beautiful night here in Nevis, a bit warm, but we have had some intermittent showers. Nothing to solve the difficulties we're having in terms of drought, but nevertheless we are grateful to God and continue to pray for the rains to come so that the farmers and the island generally can get a break. We have a lot to go through this evening, and I am going to use a portion of this evening's show to give an update to the general public as the Premier and Nevis and the Minister of Finance as to where we are as of the first half of this year. I know we're already in August, but certainly I have an update as to the end of June 2026, and so I'll give some information shortly on that. But just to say good evening, I am grateful to God. I feel like I'm in good health, and I am happy to be here. Now, a few things this afternoon. We would have spent some time with the good people of Jessups, and when I say we, I mean the CCM party. We've been walking through the various communities. People sometimes complain and say they only see the politicians when it's election time, and so we are saying there's no election that is called and none that's pending. The next election, or federal election, isn't due until summer of next year, and the local election isn't due until April or so of 2028. So the truth is that we're walking around at this stage really just listening to our people, getting an idea of what their challenges are, getting feedback on what our policies are doing in the community, and really taking notes as to how we can assist. Some, of course, have broad issues. Others have personal issues in the sense of personal to their community. We are seeing roads that need to be done, difficulties with sometimes nuisance that some people are creating with their properties and creating a difficulty for other people. So we're looking at all these things, getting ideas and feedback, and we're talking to everyone. We're not missing out any household. We sometimes knock on doors, knock on gates. People may not be at home. Sometimes we think people are there, but they may not answer. That's just the nature of things, but we're not passing anybody by. We're speaking to everyone, we're engaging with everyone, because at the end of the day, I keep reminding us all that once the ballots are counted, the government is our government, is the government of Nevis, and therefore we have a duty to report to all the people of Nevis, not just some, but all. So this afternoon we're in the community of Jessups, and we walked through that community and had engagements with a number of people there, Jessup's, Garrick's Pasture, etc. We were able to greet Rohan Isles. He was there on his porch, and we said good afternoon to him. He appeared indisposed, and so we didn't have a chance to really have a conversation, but certainly we call in Mr. Isles. We know that we've heard he's a candidate for the NRP in the next election, but just to confirm our position that we are speaking to everyone. Who knows? Rohan may well go and decide that he's looking at all the good work that's happening in Nevis and he wants to vote for the Concerned Citizens Movement. You never can tell. And that is where we are now. We're talking to everyone. We're hearing from everyone. We're not yet asking people for their vote. That time will come. But we are really just going through and listening and hearing and really having an opportunity. We recognize that notwithstanding that all of us have office hours and have offices, and in my case I have open days when people can come in and chat with me. A lot of people just don't want to come to the office, and so they prefer if you come to them. They prefer to see you in the community, and that is what we're trying to do. So we were in Church Ground on Monday. We had a wonderful walkthrough in Church Ground. So grateful to the people of Church Ground, as always. They were very receptive. We shared their ideas and their concerns. We had a walkthrough in Jessups just this evening. Again, thank you to the good people of Jessups. That too was very, very good. The engagements, just the reception that we got, the warmth from our people. I'm very, very pleased, and I want to say thank you to them. And we have a number of walkthroughs that are coming up. Let me just take a moment. Let me go to my phone very quickly just to let the public know that our walkthroughs are going to be, the next walkthrough that we have will be in the community of Fountain. We'll be there on Friday, God willing. And the next Monday, we come to Chickenstone, Claygut area, and then we go to Hamilton on Tuesday, Brown Hill on Thursday, following Monday, Westbury, Butler's Village at Tuesday, Hanley's Road, and then Stony Grove. So we are walking all around. We're touching every single constituency, every single parish. And sometimes people say, well, we didn't see you. We are promising to come back time and time again. We really just want to hear from you. And that's why we're out there. So if you have concerns, it's a great opportunity to share those concerns. We're taking notes, and we're going back to see what problems are there and what problems we can resolve. I left the walkthrough as night descended, and I decided to go up to our hospital to do a short visit and to see some individuals who were there, and to, of course, wish them all the best. I went as well to see my cousin Swain Evelyn, and those out there would know that Swain had a medical emergency just a week ago. In fact, I was on the show last week, Wednesday, when I finished at 10 p.m. I got the call from Eric Evelyn and rushed to the hospital because Swain had just been brought in. There was a small group there of well-wishers, but he was in pretty bad shape last week. He was unconscious, didn't know anyone, and we were all incredibly fearful. And so you could imagine tonight when I went there to see the Swain that I know laughing, talking, tells me he's moving around, really just resting now, waiting to be discharged. And I just want to say thanks to God. Thanks to God for what he has done in terms of Swain and Swain's recovery. Swain, as we all know, is a chairperson of Culturama. He had just delivered a fantastic Culturama 52 for the people of Nevis, and then he had this catastrophic medical issue. And really everybody feared for the worst. So when I went there tonight and see Swain talking, laughing, chatting with me as usual, it really warmed my heart. I felt blessed because just a week ago he was in a terrible condition. I want to thank God because God, of course, is the healer in chief. And without him, we couldn't be here. None of us could be here. And certainly I couldn't be here saying thank you to him for what he has done in terms of bringing Swain back from the brink. But I also want to thank our doctors and our nurses and those who, when we are asleep, are there looking after us. Because oftentimes the approach that we take is to bash and to criticize. Very rarely are we prepared in the same way to go public and to say thank you, to give commendations. Well, I want to give commendations tonight because the doctors last week, Wednesday, said to us that they will do their very best. I want to give commendations to our staff here in Nevis at the Alexandra Hospital. We had Dr. I want to think her surname is Jeffers, who's there. Is it Duana? Yes. She was there. I want to thank, I think it's Dr. Gonzalez who was there. And I also want to thank our own division neurologist. Is it a neurologist or he's a neurosurgeon, I think. I'm sorry, Dr. Jeffrey Liebert, who is from Rice's but who lives in Jamaica. Jeffrey was on the phone. Jeffrey was on the phone to the doctors at the hospital. He was on the phone even to me. He was very engaged. And Jeffrey, if you're listening, I want to say thank you. So thank you to Jeffrey. Thank you to Duana. Thank you to Dr. Gonzalez. And they gave that commitment that they will do their very best. Thank you to the nursing staff. When I saw Swain tonight, I felt good. I wanted to say that publicly because I know that our doctors and our nurses do their very best. The conditions are not always perfect, but some of us spend our time complaining and criticizing. Others spend their time doing the best that they can in the circumstances that they are and making a difference. And I want to publicly say thank you to the staff at the Alexandra Hospital for all that they've done for him and all that they've done for so many others and all that they continue to do. As I walked the ward this evening, there were several people who were there hospitalized, getting care. And I asked all of them the same thing, are you being taken care of? And they said yes, and I'm grateful for that. So, if you're listening at Alexandria, congratulations to you. Madam Minister, if you're listening, Madam Minister Janelle Nisbet, congratulations to you, your PS, Shalisa Martin, and the entire team, Assistant PS, Satoya Jeffers, all who are involved, the hospital administrator, Gary, our matron, all who are involved. Thank you for all that you do and all that you continue to do to provide health care to our people. It's not easy. Many cases it's thankless. But when we see the good work that you do, I want to be first in line to congratulate you and to say thank you. We are truly grateful. Just the other night I was at a particular spot and I had a conversation with a beautiful young woman who is of Nivision extract but who lives abroad. And she comes home often, and I had a very good conversation with her. She is a very talented, very educated young woman. And she said she wanted to talk to me about health care. And I said, sure. And she started out by saying, oh, the health care in Nevis is so terrible. People go to the hospital and don't come back out. They go there to die. They don't come back out. And I didn't take offense because I recognize that when people make such comments, it's really who they're listening to, particularly people who do not live here. It's who they listen to. You can choose to listen. There's an old adage, I think, in accounting. They say garbage in, garbage out. If you listen to people who are only spewing garbage, then you can't really be faulted for then saying the things that you're hearing. And that is the concern that I have, that those of us who are engaged in terms of public debate and public discourse, we have a duty. We have a duty to seek to educate and to uplift our people, recognizing that I'm sitting down here in a little studio at Von Radio. There's nobody in the room with me. But all around the world, people may well be listening. And tomorrow, people may say, oh, Mark said this and Mark said that. We have a duty, ladies and gentlemen, to educate and to uplift. And some people use these microphones wherever they are. And the whole purpose of these microphones for them is to denigrate, is to criticize and cuss, it's to call down. And when the young lady said that, I'm reminded that one of the opposition commentators made a comment once that people going to Alexandria Hospital to die. That was the comment. I heard him myself. And I said, what an unfortunate statement, because even as he made that comment, had something happened to him, the same ambulance he would have called to take him to the same Alexandria Hospital. We must start to uplift our people. I am not saying that the healthcare system in Nevis is perfect. In fact, I will be bold to say that nowhere in the world is the healthcare system perfect. In the great United Kingdom, they're crying out about how they can save the NHS, I think they call it, NHC something, I can't remember, NHS, I believe it's called. In the great United States of America, people are crying out, how do you get health care? How do you pay for health care? These are some of the richest and most developed countries in the world. So we anticipate that if in those major countries in the world, those superpowers, they're still having struggles, then we expect that in these small islands we will have some difficulties from time to time. But that doesn't mean that we use our time to call down, to castigate and to criticize, to say our doctors at the hospital don't know what they're doing, to say of the young doctors that they're treating people by Google, and to disparage and to disrespect. And so I had to take the opportunity to speak to this young woman, not from a position of being upset because she doesn't live here, but to say to her, no, let me take the opportunity to educate you and enlighten you as to what we're doing on the island in terms of healthcare. The investments that are being made, even now, in the process of trying to get a dialysis center open, are first for the island of Nevis. CT scan, state of the art, mammogram, new ambulances. Believe it or not, this island has not had new ambulances until we did so. And we did not just get one, we got two at the same time. More and better equipment, more and more nurses, more and more doctors, specialist doctors. It's not just general practitioners in Nevis anymore, but specialists, whether they're internists, obstetrics and gynecology, cardiology, you name it. We are reaching out and we are trying our very best piece by piece, little by little, to improve what we offer at our hospital. Even our state-of-the-art 911 dispatch system now. It used to be that when people needed urgent care, they had an emergency, they did not know who to call, or they were routed all around the place. We have worked with the Homeowners Association at Four Seasons, trained individuals, that we now have a state-of-the-art dispatch system in Nevis. All of these have been improvements, some of which have gone unnoticed. But all of these have been constant investment and improvement to make things better. And so when I saw my cousin Swain tonight, I said, praise be to God. But also, let me come on this show and say thank you. Thank you to our doctors. Thank you to our nurses. Those who are out there trying to paint a picture of us as being backward and not knowing what we're doing, I am saying that I am not one of those. I am here to praise, give thanks, and to encourage those who labor in the vineyard of healthcare, because it's not easy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is something that I wanted to say right at the top of the show. Having said that, I want to just move on, because as we go through the community, we get the feedback from individuals in the community. We get an opportunity to hear from them about infrastructure, to hear from them about the cost of living, to hear from them about jobs and job creation, the economy and the expansion of the economy. And so for us, it's a very interesting dynamic and an interesting opportunity to engage with the Nevision people and with the Nevision public. And this afternoon, just as in other afternoons, as we've walked through our neighborhoods and chatted and knocked on doors, I was quite impressed in terms of the level of conversation and the feedback that many people brought, and that we were able to engage in with some who we spoke to. And I was incredibly happy to engage and to see at what level our people are able to engage with the government, with their representatives. And that makes my heart glad. I am not hearing from our people as I go out there the set of sound and fury sometimes you hear on the radio. I am not hearing the vitriol and the anger that you're hearing on the radio. What I'm hearing from our people is that, hey, I'm working, I'm going out there every day, I'm trying my best to support my family, I'm building a home, I'm buying a piece of land, I'm looking to go off to university, I've just come back from university. These are the things that I'm hearing from our people. I would like to have the road in front of my home here sorted out. You know what I'm not hearing? I'm not hearing any complaints about water. I'm not hearing complaints about the delivery of electricity. Yes, I'm getting complaints about the cost of electricity, but not about the delivery. I am not hearing people out there coming to us with sound and fury about destiny and about developments on the island. In fact, to the contrary, people have said to us, we want this island to develop. We need more jobs, we need more people, we need more activity. And so when I sometimes come on these shows and I said, yes, we have the loud few. We have those who every day on Facebook, they say the same thing. Those who call in every show every week and say the same thing. One must be fooled into thinking that they represent the majority of views. That's not what I'm hearing when I go into the communities. That's not what I'm hearing when I go into the barber shop and the rum shop and sit down on the block. And I do that a lot. That's not what I'm hearing as we're walking through. In fact, when we walked through in church ground on Monday, we had quite an illuminating conversation with a family, husband and wife. And as we were chatting with them, the whole issue of destiny came up. And the observation was made that those who are opposed to the idea of a major development on the south coast of Nevis have not themselves put forward any alternative. And I thought that was interesting, because it's an observation that I myself have kept making. We all know, ladies and gentlemen, that offering criticism is easy. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. All of us who sit in the pavilion know what shot the batsman should have played. We know what line the bowler should be bowling. But can we bat? No. Can we bowl? No. Have we ever tried? No. Will we ever try? No. But we're sitting in the pavilion and we got the most to say. Boy, hook the ball. Boy, cut the ball. We know what they should do, but we are not prepared ourselves to do it. And then the question that arises every time, in my opinion, is what then is the solution? I know I spoke to a friend and cousin of mine, very bright fellow, lives abroad, and he is ranting and raving about development that we need to this is where the island needs to go. And I said simply to him, I said, my friend, every year we have 300 to 400 youngsters coming out of school. Those who are coming out locally, those who are going to CFBC, sixth form, and those who are coming home from university. When they come home, what am I to tell them as the Premier of Nevis? I'm sorry, but there's no work for you? Or do I have a responsibility to partner with the private sector to generate economic growth, GDP growth, development, job growth, so that we can realistically say to our young people, come home, there's an opportunity for you here that you can make a life for yourself. So I said, if you are opposed to the plans and programs of the government to expand the economy, what do you suggest? And he said to me, boy, that's a you problem. People elect you to solve the problem. Nobody vote for me. And I said to him, you're right. You're right. People voted for me to solve those problems. They did not vote for you. They did not elect you. Therefore, move out of my way and let me proceed to solve the problem to the best of my ability. Because when confronted and asked, what then are your suggestions? They say, no, that's not my responsibility. You're the government, you must find the answers. But when the government proposes answers, you are the harshest critic. You know everything that is wrong. You know everything that you are against. And I keep saying, but if you're against all this, what are you for? If you don't want the South Coast to be developed or to be developed with the Destiny Project, then what do you propose instead? And that's where the conversation breaks down. Because the truth is that they have no solutions to offer to the people of Nevis. None. They are opposed because maybe they don't like Mark Brantley. They don't like CCM. They got some personal beef. Things not going well with them. They're lashing out at somebody. But at the end of the day, what is the solution that you offer for the advancement of Nevis? And that is why I'm so happy that I'm in the community. That we're walking through and we're engaging in the community, because when we engage, you get the pulse, you get the real feel from people. What are the issues that they're concerned about? And as I'm walking through, people are, as I said, talking about infrastructure. They're talking about cost of living, which is a global problem. These are the issues that real people in their homes, in their villages. And so the observation that this couple made to us in church ground was a valid observation. They're hearing all the noise, they're hearing all the cussing, but they're not hearing any plan. They're not hearing an alternative, they're not hearing any suggestions. And therein lies the problem. So I think our people need to come out of the pavilion, and rather than just staying up there, armchair critics and armchair experts, come on the field of play. Take up a bat, take up a ball, and do something more than spewing venom on social media or on the radio. And if you notice, it's the same couple people. Same couple people. On this Destiny Project, some of them have renamed them Destiny. When they talk now, I just say, oh, Destiny again. Because if you get up in the morning, you say, good morning, Nevis. They say, we don't want no Destiny. We don't want no Destiny. Jesus, all I said was good morning. Let me not call the Lord's name in vain. All we said was good morning. You're talking about traffic, tint, crime, ganja, jobs, sun hot, rainfall, drought, and every topic that you raise, one response: destiny. It tells me that that is bordering on obsession, and it really has very little to do with reasoned or reasonable debate. The other issue that I've realized is that in many instances in our island, it matters very little what one says. What I mean by that is, people say, I am not getting enough information. But when you share information, those same people continue to say they're either not getting enough information, or they continue to repeat the false information that they have heard elsewhere. Garbage in, garbage out. A good example is this talk about this 20-foot, 30-foot wall that is going to be around Destiny for miles and miles and miles, like the Great Wall of China. No truth to it. But no less a person than the leader of the NRP has in a recent speech made reference to the same thing. This notion of a state within a state and some enclave that is outside the constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis, no truth to it, but they continue to say it anyway. This notion of 30 and 40,000 people descending on Nevis, no truth to it, but they continue to say it anyway. Recently, I listened to an address by the leader of NRP, and she said that 1/3 of Nevis, 1/3 of Nevis was going to this project, this Destiny project. I'm not going to get into the other things she has said, because I'm dealing with her in a different forum where she will have to pay some money. But these kinds of statements are just being made. Nobody is saying, let me fact check. Nobody is listening and trying to discern the truth of the matter. And people just run with it. Somebody sent me a clip of a sermon given in one of our churches last Sunday, I think it was. And the good reverend, somebody who I know, is very astute. And when you see people who are astute people say things that are not true, you have to wonder. Sometimes some people you can forgive and say to them, well, I don't think they knew any better. But when people know better, you also expect them to do better. And the reason I say that is because one of the things that I smiled at, I chuckled, the good reverend said that these people are going to come and they will be able to vote, and we will therefore be a minority in our country. We will be second-class citizens in our country. And I thought to myself, but that reverend attended a meeting I had with the clergy, a meeting the cabinet had with the clergy. And that very question was raised and answered, because we have consistently said that one of the earliest engagements we had with these Destiny folks, we said, you will not be able to vote. That is a red line. You will not be able to vote. And yet, people go even into the pulpit to say to the congregation that these individuals are going to come and they're going to be more than us, and they're going to vote and they're going to control everything. And so sometimes I wonder, is there any point in continuing to engage and to tell the truth to the people of Nevis and to let them know what is really happening if they are simply not interested in knowing? And in some quarters I have to conclude that they're not interested in knowing. Last week, week before, some week prior, some woman called into this radio station, and in my conversation engagement with her, she said she was confused. And I said, okay, let me explain. I don't want to hear anything. Now listen to that. You call into a radio station. You say that you are confused about the matter. I said, all right, let me explain. I do not want to hear. So it's either that you're not really confused, or perhaps you're confusing yourself, or, and my conclusion is, you really want to remain confused. Because perhaps if you listen, actually listen, not listen to respond, but listen to understand, you will not be able then to call into any other radio station to talk about what confusion you're in. So when some people posture and say they don't have information and this thing they don't understand, it is because they're not prepared to listen. They genuinely are disinclined to hear. I listened to a program in Sync It some time ago. And some guy, I've never heard of him before, but he was on this program. I think it was on Win FM. And the lady on the program with him said, the Premier of Nevis gave an address and he said, I don't want to hear anything he has to say. I don't want to hear anything from him. And she asked the question, well, how can you comment on what he had to say? How can you form a view if you don't want to hear? Oh, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. And the man was so vitriolic, I wonder if I know the man. So I kind of zoom in on the picture. I said, well, I never said this mortal yet. I have no idea who he is. All know I have no idea who he is. But it's the nature of things. Now, I was on a program in Sync It on, when was it now? I can't remember. But a day this week. It could have been on Monday or Tuesday. And I appeared on a program there on Win FM. And I enjoyed the program immensely, but one of the things that I will say is that it is important that those of us who have the privilege of being on radio, hosting shows, engaging with the public, that we inform ourselves accurately so that when we go on radio, we are armed with the facts and therefore can engage factually. And I say that because one of the hosts of the show said something about Mr. Jensen, Olivia Jensen, who is the promoter of the Destiny Project. And she said something to the effect that Mr. Jensen said he wants to change the constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis to deal with matters like witchcraft. And I said, what? And I immediately corrected and said, no. You see, sometimes we are imbibing information by way of clips. Somebody chops a statement and send out a clip. And I saw something recently where Mr. Jensen somehow was being accused of, I guess, promoting witchcraft. And I said to myself, you know, we as an island need to do a bit better than that. Because the point that Mr. Jensen was making was that when one looks at the laws of St. Kitts and Nevis, there are many aspects of our laws which are archaic. They are laws that came from centuries ago. And he cited the law that criminalizes witchcraft as an example of laws that are ancient laws that are still on our books. And I made the point in St. Kitts. I said, all right, well, his experience as a European, the American experiences from the Middle East and elsewhere might be different to ours. So contextually, somebody like himself may see those things as outdated and irrelevant. That we appear that we're not in the modern age and in the modern world when our laws are still talking about things like witchcraft. Now there are people here who get very agitated by things like that. But saying that something is antiquated is not the same thing as saying that you are proposing something. And that is where the disconnect happens. Saying that the law is antiquated has nothing to do with our constitution, which is our supreme law. Nowhere in the constitution it says anything about witchcraft. That's legislation that was given to us by the British when we were yet a colony. And those who study our history know that a lot of the laws that we have were designed by the colonial masters of the day to suppress what they thought was African culture and practices that were brought by our forefathers who were brought to these islands in chains. And so we have to contextualize and look at these things in that way. Our law, for example, has a criminal offense, which is sodomy. Some would broadly refer to it as homosexuality. Okay. The courts have since ruled that those laws are unconstitutional because they violate people's right to privacy. So if I were to say that still having such a law on our books is archaic because the courts have already struck it down as being unconstitutional and therefore unenforceable, will you go out there and say I'm promoting homosexuality? I'm not. I'm simply saying what the position is. And I think it's that leap in logic that led this particular host to say that Mr. Jensen was somehow trying to change the Constitution, simply from listening to a clip that was circulated. I am advising our people be very careful about imbibing clips without getting context. Be very careful of that, because you or I can make a statement, and I will use a precise example. I remember one time we were campaigning up in Hamilton years ago, and I was on the microphone and I was speaking about my leader at that time, Vance Emery of blessed memory, and I said that I was prepared to follow him if necessary to the gates of hell, but there would be no need because we are heaven bound. The NRP put out an ad right away, except they ended the statement at the gates of hell. I am prepared to follow him to the gates of hell, full stop. And they removed the bit where I say there will be no need because we are heaven bound. That part was left out. Now if you ran with that, you will think, oh my goodness, they're going to hell in a handbasket. And that is why I say those of us who are on these shows, hosting these shows, we have an obligation. We have an obligation to say to the people, listen, this is the full context of what was said. Or we end up misleading people. So I'm going to move on from that, because one of the things that was said this afternoon, which I thought was of particular relevance, like one of the young persons we engaged with, had to do with water. And the comment was made that on St. Kitts, the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Drew, is touting as a major achievement of his government that in recent times, because of their investment, 70% of Kittitians have water 24 hours a day. And this young person said to me that when he heard that statement, he reflected that in Nevis, 100% of our communities have 24/7 water all the time. And that has been the position now for the past several years. So on St. Kitts, 70% coverage is being touted as a major accomplishment. On Nevis, we have had 100% coverage for years. We are now going through the worst drought that we have seen in a decade. And if you go now and you turn on your tap, there's water in your pipe. To the hard work of Minister Spencer Brand and his team, I say kudos to them. That did not happen by happenstance. That did not happen by chance. That happened because your government has been investing. Thus far, I think the count is now up to about $60 million that we've invested over the last decade or so in improving our water distribution, our water storage, and in providing additional water through desalination and through drilling. Do you know that Nevis now has the capacity to store just over 4 million gallons of water per day? All those tanks that we had that were leaking have been replaced. Brand new polyurethane tanks have been erected. Maybe you don't see them because they're up in the mountains. They're up in Stony Hill. They're up in Spring Hill. They're up there at the top of Morgan Estate. So perhaps you don't see them. But the infrastructure, one of those tanks costs 500,000 US dollars. We have changed out all of the pipes around Nevis, removed issues of low water pressure, changed out those old cast iron pipes, invested in butt fusion machines, trained our people. In fact, our butt fusion machines have from time to time been borrowed by our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts to help. Our expertise here in Nevis has been lent to our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts from time to time. And that is what we've been able to do. It has not come about by chance. It has come about because as a government we have invested. We went out, we bought brand new equipment for our roads, pavers, milling machine, trained our staff, our young men who work at the asphalt plant, where recently, I believe it was in Kentucky, that we sent them for training. To the point where I wonder if our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts know that when the roads in St. Peter's and all that was being done, we had manpower and equipment from Nevis pressed into action in St. Kitts to assist. I wonder if they know that. That our paver, our milling machine, our experts, Danny and Boujou, all of these guys were in St. Kitts. So when you drive on those beautiful roads in St. Peter's and those areas now, Nevis contributed to that. We are only able to do so because as a government we have been investing. We did not tell Danny and Boujou them. They don't know what they're doing. We can't give them the road to do because the road going to mash up. They don't know what they're doing. To the contrary, we invested in them. To the point now, they're so good that they've been able to go to St. Kitts and other places. Because I think Danny was in Barbuda, Antigua, one of them places recently, assisting with roads up there too. That's what government is supposed to do. Empower people. Buy and invest in the equipment, etc. to make things better. And that is what we've been able to achieve. So we are extremely, extremely congratulatory of the federal government to say that now through their investments 70% of St. Kitts has water, 24 hours a day. But in Nevis, thanks be to God, 100%, even in this terrible drought, 100% coverage throughout the island of Nevis. When we were told in Nevis that we were wasting money, and some unfortunate Nevisians parroted that empty rhetoric that was coming from Timothy Harris, we in Nevis were investing while he held billions of dollars in citizenship by investment money. Didn't buy one generator at Skellig, not one. I wonder if people know that up to this day, Skellig is renting generators to generate electricity in St. Kitts. While we were bashed in Nevis, we were buying generators. We bought 3. 2 brand new Wattsillers and one, I think, that was a refurbished generator. 3 that we bought during the time that we've been here. While we were being bashed in Nevis, we invested $60 million in water. No investment in water was made in St. Kitts. And so I often remind people that if Mark Brantley, and I raise my hand if I'm a bad spender, then St. Kitts should have had a bad spender too. Because if they had a bad spender, they would have had water. They would have had reliable electricity. We were investing in road infrastructure. We invested in the CCTV command center in the fight against crime. We invested in the water taxi facility. So when you travel out of Nevis, you have a proper facility to serve you. Where is the corresponding investment on St. Kitts? With billions, not millions, you know. Billions, with a B, that was collected during that time. So while I was castigated and Nevis was castigated, Nevis was doing the right things. The money that we had, we were investing that money so that the people of Nevis and the wider federation could have the quality of infrastructure. How can you develop a country or say you're a modern island without water, without electricity? That's what we were doing on Nevis. And if that is bad spending, I raise my hand and I say before God and man, I am guilty. I spent money on developing this island, and therefore I am guilty, and so is my entire cabinet. We're guilty of spending $60 million on water. We're guilty of developing the water taxi facility. We're guilty of the Newcastle police station. We're guilty of the new treasury building in town. We're guilty of CCTV coverage and a new CCTV command center. We're guilty of developing Nevis. And therefore, in the words of King Miko, if you're going to sentence us, well, the only sentence could be 5 more years in government. What other sentence can you give a party that is guilty of developing the country? 5 more years in government. Those who are accusing us of not knowing what we're doing, they had the majority of the money, 92% they kept. We got 8%. And from our 8%, we invested in Nevlec, we invested in water, we invested in water taxi, we invested in Mondo Truck, we invested in Treasury Building, we invested in Newcastle Police Station, we invested to make the lives of the people of Nevis better. Handley's Road, Rollins, Brownhill, Braziers, Shaw's Road, Bath Road. Substantial investments in infrastructure in every village. Butlers. I drove through Butlers the other day. I can't even recognize Butlers now. Every village you're going to was improved. When we interfered with people's boundaries, we put up beautiful walls, fences for them. Everybody has been enhanced because of this government and our policies. You drive around this island, every nook and cranny of Nevis is under construction. People are building homes, expanding existing homes, renovating, all with the benefit of policies of this government. Man, when you have a government that is so good, the only verdict is 5 more years because you're guilty of developing the country. And that is what we have been doing. Now, one of the things that we have heard said, I'm going to close off shortly, especially from our boat operators, our fishermen, is that they're having difficulty because they don't have a ramp. And that has been raised time and time again for us. With us, I want to announce tonight that I have asked the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who functions as an advisor, to initiate immediate action to meet with the necessary stakeholders so that we can get a ramp done in Nevis to facilitate our fisher folk and to facilitate our water taxi operators. We recognize that it's a gap because we have a growing boating community in Nevis, both for leisure and for business, and therefore I want to announce that relief is on the way. One thing I know, when you ask Alexis Jeffers to get a job done, he gets it done. And just tonight I spoke to him. He was on the walkthrough in Jessups with us, and he says he has already visited one site with an architect to look and see what is possible. And I believe that he is to initiate some conversations with the water taxi operators. The idea really is to create a facility that everybody can use, but that will make it a little easier for our fisher folk and our water taxi operators and our leisure craft owners to put their boat in the water and to take it out. So we've heard the cries, we've heard the concerns, and I'm happy tonight to say that they will be shortly addressed. Now, let me use the last few minutes just to give some highlights of where we are in terms of the island and our economy, the financial health, if you will. One of the things that I've introduced as the Minister of Finance is to say to the team that I want quarterly reports. And so I have before me the report for the half year, the period that would be January to June, the amalgamation of the 2 quarters. And the highlights, I don't have time to get into all the details, but our total revenue for this year is down by some 10.87%. or 13.09 million when compared to 2025. Now I want to hasten to say that the reason that total revenue is down is because we have seen a remarkable drop in the portion of revenue that Nevis is getting from citizenship by investment. Because while we're now getting 25%, which is the agreed percentage share, the overall total has dropped significantly, and as a result, 25% of a smaller amount naturally would be a smaller amount. So that is accounted for the overall drop in revenue of 10.87%. But so that you have some sense of what the economy outside citizenship by investment in Nevis is doing, recurrent revenue for January to June is up 17.79%. And that recurrent revenue has exceeded expectations by some 8.36% or $7.47 million. VAT receipts are up 9.71%. VAT receipts collected at customs are up by 56.84%. And total VAT collected over that 6-month period is $27.88 million, which is an increase of 22.9% or $5.2 million when compared to the same period last year. Financial services continues to do very well. It's accounting now for 13.13% of our revenue. I'm just doing the highlights, a quick snapshot. Of course, we can get into a discussion when the phone's open. I'll do that shortly. Recurrent revenue for January to June 2026 consisted of $71.84 million in tax revenue, $24.92 million in non-tax revenue. I want you to know that tax revenue is significantly higher than that generated in 2025. Growth in tax revenue for this period was supported by better than expected results for VAT, tax receipts, stamp duties, and customs service charges. Let me just again continue. Financial services exceeded budgeted expectations by 35.45% and has so far exceeded 2025 results by 35.86%. Stamp duties exceeded expectations by 70.82%. Import duties exceeded expectations by 1%. And IRD VAT receipts exceeded budgeted expectations by 2.27% and have thus far exceeded 2025 results by 9.71%. Of course, that's on the revenue side. Customs Department VAT exceeded budgeted expectations by 14.2% and so far has exceeded 2025 expectations by 56.84%. Social Services Levy fell short of expectations by 20.96% and has fallen short of 2025 results by 21.52%. Corporate income tax would have fallen short of expectations by 31.8%, but still exceeded 2025 results by some 14.19%. Property tax, well, we've revamped that, so property taxes are going to be due later this year. And then excise and export duty exceeded expectations by 12.25% and exceeded 2025 results by some 99.84%. Means that we've had significant increase there. Now, so the public understands, CBI transfers, that is the share that Nevis gets from the CBI, that fell by 67.99% or $22.44 million when compared to the same period in 2025. When compared to budgeted estimates, CBI transfers fell short by 46.96%. So basically, the extent to which we were able to rely on CBI transfers, that has almost disappeared. What I think is interesting is that notwithstanding CBI transfers have fallen by 67.99%, the overall revenue decrease in Nevis is only 10.87%. It bears out what I've been saying, that Nevis is not overly reliant on CBI receipts. Let me just give you some additional numbers. Tax revenue continues to trend upwards. The first half of fiscal year 2026 has seen robust collections. The results show a significant outpacing of the results of the same period in 2025. Tax revenue grew by 17.79% when compared to 2025 and has exceeded budgeted expectations by 8.36% thus far. So, last year, recurrent revenue performance was dampened by the reduced VAT rate program implemented by the federal government. No such program was implemented for 2026, and so that has helped to assist in our tax revenue collection. The revenue budget January to June 2026 was 46.27 million. The department collected 46.35 million, which means that we are on par from inland revenue with the budget period. And the revenue budget for customs was 22.96 million. The department collected 25.79 million, which is 12.32% ahead of the budget. Now, of course, every balance sheet has to have budget, you have expenditure, and you have revenue. Every statement of income and expenses, forgive me. So, the expenditure side now, I want to just say that the total expenditure for the first half of this year would have increased by 3.88% or $3.75 million when compared to the same period in 2025. But it decreased by 1.88% when compared to budgeted expectations. So put differently, we are spending under budget. Total expenditure for January to June comprised 79.72 million in recurrent expenditure and 20.49 million in capital expenditure. Recurrent expenditure for January to June decreased by 3.54% or 2.92 million when compared to the same period in 2025. Recurrent expenditure for the first half of 2026 came in below budget by 5.02%. And we have gone on to point out that we are not doing too badly at all in terms of controlling our expenditure. Capital expenditure for the first half of the year was greater than that for the same period in 2025 by some 48.24%. The entire outlay, which is important for this period, was financed through revenue. So we are not taking any new loans to fund the capital expenditure in the first half of the year. So that, I think, is very, very important. Let me just go quickly, because I want to open the lines, to the conclusions, and this is from our Ministry of Finance. Overall, for the period January to June 2026, the fiscal indicators paint a very positive outcome for the period. The primary and overall balances are both in a strong surplus position and outpace the outcomes for the same period in 2025 and in 2024. For the first time in 8 years, the administration's mid-year fiscal position is one of a fiscal surplus instead of a fiscal gap as at June 2026. And just so you know that the overall balance at this time, that is as of June, was $7,109,870. And that compares very favorably to the position that we have had in recent years. And so I just wanted to raise that, to point that out, that we are really, in my opinion, moving in a good position. In 2025, this time we had a fiscal gap of 496,000. 2024, we had a fiscal gap at this time of year of 12.4 million. 2023, at this time of year, we had a fiscal gap of 2.3 million. 2022, we had a fiscal gap of 3.9 million. 2021, we had a fiscal gap of 7.8 million. 2020, we had a fiscal gap of 6.9 million. We had to go back to 2019 to have a fiscal surplus of 3 million. And now in 2026, we have a fiscal surplus of $17,040,301 and an overall balance of $7,109,870. So we are in the black thus far for the first 6 months of the year, notwithstanding that revenue receipts from CBI, let me go back to that number because it fell, I believe I made a note of it, by some 67.99%. So almost 68% shortfall in what we were getting from CBI. But nevertheless, we are in a surplus position, which tells you that the overall economy in Nevis is firing on all cylinders. The fiscal indicators are moving in the right direction, with all indicators in surplus position. Total revenue generated for 2026 thus far is below budgeted targets by 1.73% and below 2025 results by 10.87%, again because of the shortfall in CBI. Recurrent expenditure was kept within budgeted targets and did not outpace recurrent revenue. The 2026 results indicate that the administration is in a stronger position when compared to the same period last year. So, I just wanted to share that with you, ladies and gentlemen. These financial reports are, as I said, being produced quarterly, and that gives us a temperature check as to where we are. It is now 5 minutes past 9 o'clock. Let me open the lines. And the numbers to call are 869-469-1616 and 1700. My soliloquy has taken an hour, and we now will open the phones and take your calls. Let's go straight to the phones and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Miss Sherry.
Good evening, my dear.
Sympathies going out to Sylvine family on the passing of her. Proverbs 15, verse 1, 2, and 3. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. The tongue of the wise useth knowledge, aright, but the mouth of the fools poureth out foolishness. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, behold the evil and the good. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, and great scripture. Thank you for sharing. And I join you in expressing condolences to the family of Sylvine. Sylvine, of course, was a regular commentator. She was somebody who was on the radio, lent her voice, lent her training, lent her expertise. Strong woman, strong opinions. I always used to enjoy engaging with her. She called this very show from time to time. And so to the family, I extend my deepest condolences, the family of Sylvine Henry, whom we would have lost recently. The lines are open. Let's go back and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Okay, we've lost that caller. Let's try the other caller. Caller, good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good night, Honorable Mark. How are you doing?
Yes, good evening, brother. I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay, nice to hear it. I didn't even know you was on last week until I tuned in late. I heard you.
Yes.
You know, as the Culturama was coming up, I said you wasn't going to be on last week at all until. But,
no, man, I'm definitely there.
Yeah, but I had to call in tonight because, you know, I just say a lot of things will be going on and saying things and so going on out there.
Yes.
Because, you know, some time ago I was listening where they were saying the investors was bringing in their own police, bringing in their own this and bringing in their own direct for the project.
Yes.
Now I listen to so the police have had a press conference in St. Kitts before the Culturama, and a question was asked by one of the reporter if these people will be bringing in their own police, their own thing. The police said, no. They mean not anything about that. And, you know, it's just, if people listen to what's going on, when these people have the press conference and so, they will learn the truth.
But I just take a pin here, because that's the point I'm trying to make tonight. I find that some people, I tell you, a lady calling the other, say she confused, and when I tried to explain, the woman says she don't want to hear. Some people are not interested in listening, you know. They have whatever they have in their head, whoever they get it from, and they just want to continue to repeat it. So here, as you have said, the police themselves have told you what the position is, but you're still going out there and repeating the lie.
Yeah, because the police also said that the people ain't going to have the private security.
Of course.
Just like the others hotels have the private security. And, you know, in St. Kitts and them places, like down here, sometimes police stop the police and they form their own security firm, and they have guys working for hotels. So that's what they said. They said they have their own security, just like any other hotels. So they don't know what it's talking about that they bring in police. You know, it's like, you know, just you're saying things out there and people believe in it. You know, I'm glad when I heard the police them say that, because people up and down running about this thing that these people bring in, and also they were speaking about the guns. And you had different scenario with the police with the guns and the what came in the trailer.
But the police again were able to explain, because that situation as I explained to people, the reason the police did not bring any charges is because the individuals had declared the weapons. They were not smuggling weapons in. They had declared the weapons. They had in fact written to the police, indicating to the police that they had some of them, I'm told, are collector's items. That is, you know, old firearms. Nevertheless, they're firearms. And what people must also understand is that the police has confiscated those firearms and has them in police custody. But again, you start to hear a lot of sound and fury. Some people even start to say, oh, these people are connected to destiny, and that is what. It's just, as I said, people spreading ignorance and continuing no matter what is said. When the police speaks, when the Prime Minister speaks, when I speak, they don't hear what they want to hear, so they just continue. And they say they want information, but when you provide information, they still don't want to hear what you have to say.
And I would like to ask you a question now about, because I hear one time you were saying that you get some money from Jew where you didn't know that this money was market for Nevis.
Yes.
At the time when the mister who helping push the other side was a part of your group.
Yes.
You didn't know that this money was coming in until when you get in, you tell you that this money was here for Nevis.
Yes.
I would like you to explain to the public.
Okay, so it's a very quick explanation. When I was foreign minister and a member of Team Unity, I was not aware that a friendly government was making available through the office of the Prime Minister a significant portion of money each year for projects. When Prime Minister Drew took office, he called me. He said, Premier, are you aware that the country is receiving this money? I believe the amount is $7.5 million US each year for projects. I said no. And he said, okay, starting now, the people of Nevis will get 25% of that money. So and I've said so publicly, imagine I was in a government and the Prime Minister who led my cabinet was receiving that money through the office of the Prime Minister, and Nevis did not get a penny. We did not even know about it, because that was never shared with cabinet. Prime Minister Drew came into office, called me. Are you aware that this money? And that is the money, caller, that we took to help us to develop pennies. That's the money we took to help us develop the venues for Culturama for our 50th anniversary. That's the monies now that we're taking to help us to deal with the payment for the lands for the expansion of the airport facility, Van Samry Airport. So I say all that because that is the truth, that is the position. So that is the explanation, caller, that I have for you. It was just another example of how Nevis was, frankly, treated shabbily in circumstances where we thought we were in a partnership, but we were not.
Now, Mike, next question to you. What are you getting a fair deal on the Jew for the short period of time he's there?
What I can say is that, for example, we argued that we wanted a percentage share of the citizenship by investment proceeds, and we are now getting the 25%. The problem is that because the overall proceeds have dropped so significantly, you see, if you were getting 25% when $600 and $700 million was coming in, we would have been in a tip-top shape in Nevis. Instead, in those days, we were getting a fixed sum every month. So now we're getting a percentage. The amount coming in is substantially less. So you know, if you get 25% of $100, it's $25, yes? But if you get 25% of $10, it's only $2.50. So that is the problem that we would have faced. Nevertheless, as I just read out, the island has been surviving because we have been successful in growing the local economy in Nevis to the point where we are not heavily dependent as we used to be on citizenship by investment. So Nevis is really moving away from that model and trying to do more with our local economy. That is why, as the Premier of this island, I've been preaching diversification for the last several years. When we started the movie industry, we started the online gaming, we expanded financial services. All of these are things that we've been trying to do in Nevis to say, how can we generate new activity that is not connected to CBI and that can wean us off that dependence. And so looking at the first 6 months numbers that I would have shared tonight, I think that Nevis is doing far, far better because those policies are working. Expanding the local economy has been working. And so that is where we are at this point. Caller, I have quite a few people backed up on the line though. So can I just move to another caller?
I had some orders, but I'm going to leave the people in calling.
Okay, brother. You can call back in later if possible. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, let's stick with the phones and try to take another call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening, Honorable Premier.
Oh, good evening. I know this voice very well. How are you?
I am doing pretty good, and how are you doing?
Good, I'm good, I'm good. You tell me for the last 3 weeks you've been trying to get in. So the show...
Actually, I've been trying for the past 2 weeks and never got in.
Okay.
So I'm happy that I got in.
You're in tonight, so go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yes. First of all, I want to just join with you in commending the team, the staff at the Alexandra Hospital, the doctors and the nurses and the orderlies and all the entire team there for really doing an outstanding job, not only with Swain but all of the other patients who are there. Of course, you were there last Wednesday, and we know the condition that he was in. And I'm really, really pleasantly surprised to see what excellent progress he has made in a very short space of time. And of course, that is apparently due in part to the excellent work from the team there, and of course, thanks to God as well for his mercies as well. So I want to join with you. I know you did that at the top of the show, but I also want to join with you in really commending the team there. I visit the hospital very often, so I know the excellent work that they are capable of doing, and they do, because most of the times when I visit, the patients often tell me that, listen, we're well taken care of here at the Alexandra Hospital. Moving away from that, I just want to extend some condolences to the Clark family there in Chickenstone. We would have lost one of our centenarians, Miss Leontine Clark, at the age of 102. This is 2 centenarians we have lost in quick succession. You know, we would have lost Mackie France's grandmother. She was 102 as well. So condolences to the France family as well and the Hicks family. But particularly to the Clark family there in Chickenstone. I also want to extend some birthday greetings belatedly to Hilly, our good friend Hilly, and to my good friend Dolores Body there in Chickenstone, who is celebrating today. Dolores, I know you had a wonderful day. I hope you're going to have a wonderful evening. Honorable Premier, I want to turn now to Culturama, because as I indicated, for the past 2 weeks I really tried to get in, but I couldn't get in. And I just want to say from the onset, as the Minister of Culture, how pleased I am with Culturama 52. I think generally the feedback has been good, and I am generally pleased with Culturama 52. I think it was a tremendous success, and I can speak with some authority because I would have attended all of the competitive shows in particular from start to finish. And so when I speak about what I saw, and when I speak about what would have taken place, I speak with some authority. I want at the onset as well to congratulate all of the winners of the various competitions and pageants that took place during the festival. I also want to say a big thank you to the committee, headed of course by Swain himself. I think the committee continues to do an outstanding job. They continue to work hard, diligently. They normally work overtime. Of course, this is a voluntary committee. This is a committee that is working without pay. This is a committee that loves to do national duty, national service. They love to volunteer. And I want to say a hearty thank you. Committee, you all made me proud for Culturama 52. And so all of you who are on the central committee, those who are on the subcommittees as well, all of you who work diligently to plan and execute, plan and organize and execute, and a really excellent festival this year. I want to say a big thank you to you. Of course, we want to say thanks to our sponsors. Of course, we know we have some perennial sponsors who are there year after year. We just, once Culturama is around the corner, we just have to reach out, and our sponsors are there with us, partnering with us. We want to thank you. We appreciate you very much, to the perennial sponsors who are there year after year. To those who came on board this year for the first time, we want to say thank you to all of our sponsors. Every little counts, because, of course, you know, Honorable Premier, you're the Minister of Finance, and you know that Culturama is an expensive venture. It is run mostly by the Nevis Island Administration. We can call it our national festival. And, of course, the brunt of the expenses is taken on by the Nevis Island Administration. And we know sometimes we have difficulties in terms of paying our bills, getting them paid on time. They will be paid, of course, but, you know, so we want to thank our sponsors once again for partnering with us. And we can't thank you enough. We look forward to you being with us again next year, and we're looking forward to new sponsors coming on board for next year. Our participants, all persons who participated in all of the events, all of the competitions, whether it was a competition, whether it was not a competition, we say thank you for being there. Of course, Culturama is an all-of-we thing, and we cannot do it without persons participating. We know a lot of the times persons are willing, some persons are afraid because of the stage, because of the criticism. But those who are bold enough to take the step and come forward and decide, well, listen, I want to participate, I want to compete, I want to thank all the persons who participated in every event for the festival. We want to thank all who were involved, our entertainers. We want to say a big thank you to our patron, Bridget Hunkins, to the slogan, the person who penned the slogan, to the vendors. And, of course, we can never, ever forget our healthcare professionals. We do have one of our assistant matrons who is on the Central Committee. And so at every event for Culturama, we have a team of healthcare professionals there on the spot, just in case anything happens. A lot of the times things happen and persons are not aware. Sometimes the healthcare professionals have to be going backstage to attend to participants and so on. And we are grateful to the health team who comes there night after night after night, spend the entire show there with us to ensure that if anything goes wrong, that they are there. Of course, thankfully, thank God, we could say that Culturama 52 was relatively accident and incident free, and of course we can't thank our police force and the army enough for being there, for keeping the peace, for ensuring that everything was safe, everybody was safe. We are delighted and we are happy. We know, of course, last year that things ended prematurely on last lap. I was a little nervous this year, but thankfully everything went off practically well. There were little small incidents last lap, but nothing to talk about. And so we want to thank our police force. They were out in their numbers. I know during every show they were there in front of the stage to ensure that people did not bombard the stage when the winners were announced and so on. And so kudos to Mr. Carty, to you and your team. We want to say a very, very big thank you to you, everybody who, in whatever small or large way you played in ensuring Culturama was a success. We are thankful and we say thank you to you. Now, I just wanted to comment briefly on the shows in particular. The attendance at the shows generally, because as I said, I attended all of the shows, and the attendance at the shows, in my estimation, was satisfactory in most part. We had some very good crowds for some of the shows. I was a little disappointed for two of the shows in particular. The Calypso show, which we know we have seen a decline in attendance over the years, and for this Miss Swimwear and Mr. Cool, which was held on a Friday night for the first time. I believe that is what confused quite a number of persons. That is normally held the following week, and so the crowd was not as large as it is normally. So, but apart from those two shows, I was very, very pleased with the attendance of all of the other events. Actually, I think we saw increases in terms of attendance for some of the shows. I know in particular, I saw an increase in the attendance for the Junior Calypso competition. I think I saw an attendance in the Soca Monarch competition. And so I generally was pleased. People came out to witness what was happening for Culturama 52. And we are happy for that. People came to the shows. The quality of the competitions as well, Honorable Premier, I must say, were good. Some of them were extraordinary. Persons who came to the various competitions, we've had good feedback in terms of the quality of the performances, and that is why I say we are so indebted to all the participants. You really delivered, and you delivered well. So we want to say thank you again. And I said, in my estimation, the quality of the shows were great, and most of, as I said, some of them were extraordinary. In terms of the highs that we can take away, we know over the years we have seen a gradual improvement, and I think the subcommittees continue to try very hard, because of course we are listening. Every year when we have Culturama, we listen to the suggestions and the recommendations, and so over the years we have seen a vast improvement in terms of the start time for the events. Many years gone by, shows were starting half an hour late, 45 minutes late. We have really seen a great improvement in terms of what time the shows start. We have seen improvement in terms of the management of the shows themselves. We have seen great improvement in terms of the stage management. Of course, there's always room for improvement, and we are looking at what we can do to continually improve. Of course, some of the shows are still a little bit too lengthy, and these are things we're going to go back to the drawing board with. But I generally, I think we had some excellent shows, and kudos once again to all of those subcommittee chairs for really doing a splendid job. Honorable Premier, I know I am saying that practically all of the events went well, but I really want to give some special commendation. Special mention must be made of the Junior Parade for this year. Over the years, we've had challenges with the Junior Parade. This year, we made a concerted effort to try to have a better Junior Parade this year. And I must give kudos and commendation to the staff of the NCDF. This year's Junior Parade, I think, was the biggest we've seen in a very long time. I don't know if we've had one that was bigger than that, but we got quite a number of the school children involved, and I want that trend to continue. I was very pleased. I stood up in Charlestown on the Friday afternoon of the Junior Parade, and I was really very pleased with the number of troops we had, with the involvement of our school children, the young children, and I can see that they were having a great time. I was very pleased. They ended at the villa, and when you went up to the villa was a sea of people. And so the Junior Parade was a high, definitely, for Culturama 52. The Soca Monarch, people keep talking about the Soca Monarch. The standard of Soca and the standard of the show continues to grow every year. It is a show that went pretty late, but persons stayed there until the show was finished, because persons were just excited about the event. The show started on a very high note, and it ended on an even higher note. And so overall, that show was extremely good. We've had great reviews about the Miss Culture show, the talented youth, the Juve. People are still talking about the Juve, Honorable Premier. People are still talking about Juve and what the vibe there was in Charlestown for the Juve. The parade again, of course, we had a bumper crowd in town for the parade. The parade, I think, was great this year. We are thankful we even had an overseas troop from Statia. They said they want to come back next year. And so overall, I am very happy as the Minister of Culture in saying that Culturama 52 was a tremendous success. There is something that we often don't speak about, Honorable Premier, when we speak about Culturama, but I have to mention it this evening, and that is the economic impact of the festival. The economic impact of the festival. Of course, we know that there was a lot of vending taking place during all of the events on the streets, for Juve, for parade, and so on. And so I'm sure some of the vendors made quite a bit of money. The hotels, the guest houses, all the accommodations. I spoke to someone just the day before the big weekend for Culturama. They said they were trying to look for some places for some persons in St. Kitts to stay for the weekend. They couldn't find any place because all over was booked out. Of course, wherever you turned on the island during the festival, you saw rental cars, rental jeeps, you know. And so the persons who have car rental businesses, I'm sure they did it very well. Those who had accommodation rentals, they did exceptionally well. Of course, we know that we have a lot of our brothers and sisters from St. Kitts who come over for Culturama every year. And so the ferry operators would have done very well too. The taxi drivers, the restaurants, you know, the bars. And so that is something, as I said, we often do not speak about when we speak about Culturama. We need to speak more about what the economic impact is and, you know, the injection that comes into the economy because of the festival. And so those of you who made money, we say congratulations to you, and we want to see you on board again next year. Of course, we know that we are open to all of the suggestions and the recommendations that are coming. We want to thank you for them, and we continue to listen. That is what we normally do. We listen and we try as much as possible to make improvements every year to the festival. And that is why the festival continues to get better. It continues to grow. And, of course, I want to say thanks to all the persons who came out to all of the events as well, our patrons, because we cannot do it without our patrons. We know our patrons here in Nevis, those from St. Kitts, we had quite a number of returning nationals who come home every year. They make it their business to come home every year to ensure that they are a part of history, to ensure that they are a part of the Caribbean's greatest summer lime. And so we want to thank our nationals, our visitors who came home in their numbers for the festival. And I'm sure you would have enjoyed the festival immensely. We say thank you. And of course, Honorable Premier, you would know, and all of us would know, that last year we tried as much as possible. And I think it worked out well. We would have started early in terms of our planning, and we are trying our utmost to start early again this year. So I want to announce that registration for the Mr. and Miss Talented Youth Pageant, for the Miss Culture Queen Pageant, for the Miss Culture Swimwear, and the Mr. Cool, for Culturama 52, registration is now open.
Wow.
Yes, registration is now open. Application forms can be collected and returned to the Culturama Secretariat located in the Cotton Ginnery Mall, or you can visit www.culturamanevis.com. Now, completed application forms should be returned to the Culturama Secretariat or emailed to the Secretariat at culturamanevis.com by Monday, the 30th of November, 2026, by 4 p.m. Additionally, the Culturama Secretariat is currently also accepting entries for the Culturama slogan competition. And of course, we know we normally open the slogan competition right after Culturama ends, and so we are doing it again this year. So start putting pen to paper, start putting your thinking caps on, start getting your creative ideas together. And so we are now open to receive slogans for the slogan competition. Now, slogans submitted for the Culturama 53 slogan competition should be short, they should be original, they should be creative, they should be catchy, no more than 8 to 10 words or syllables to capture the true spirit of Nevis's Culturama Festival. Now, slogans used by any other festival or carnival committees will not be accepted, and slogans that would have been used for Culturama in the past would not be accepted either. All entries must be submitted to the Culturama Secretariat by Monday, November the 30th, 2026. Alternatively, Entries can be emailed to slogan@culturamanevis.com. Now, please know that entries will not be accepted over the phone. So if you have entries, do not call the Secretariat and say, I'm going to give you my entry over the phone. They will not be accepted over the phone. The winner will receive 2 complimentary passes for all Culturama 53 ticketed events, a plaque and a cash prize of EC $500. And of course, we know that the Culturama Committee will reserve the right to use the slogan to vigorously promote the festival. And of course, Culturama 53 will be held from July the 22nd. That's Thursday, July the 22nd, until Tuesday, August the 3rd, 2027. And so those of you who are overseas, you can start putting in your vacation for next year to be here for Culturama 53. And so once again, I want to thank all who would have supported Culturama 52. I want to thank the Nevis Island Administration, Honorable Premier, you and the entire Cabinet, of course, for supporting the festival year after year. Of course, as I said, most of the money for the festival has to come from the Nevis Island Administration. And so once again, as the Minister of Culture, I'm very, very happy, very, very pleased with the way Culturama 53 was executed. And I want to say thank you, a big thank you once again to all who were involved.
Eric, I think I've allowed you to talk because I know you've been trying to get in for the past few weeks, but I think you've given a comprehensive update. I would just want to join in congratulating you and the entire team. I know Culturama is always trying because there's so many. In fact, I was commenting to you earlier this evening, if you recall, that I'm incorrect. I was telling Swain this evening, I went to visit him at the hospital, that there are some pundits who only come out. You know, when they say Jumbie come out at night, they only come out during Culturama time. And they have all kind of things to say. And then they disappear. Next Culturama, look out for them again. Right? And it's always some negativity. So I understand that it's not easy. And so I want to commend you, commend Swain, commend the entire committee and all who are involved. I think you have given a laundry list of commendations tonight. I can only say that I agree with you. But I also want to commend the people of Nevis. The reason I say that, and the people of St. Kitts and those who would have visited from Station, Saba, and those who came in, our returning nationals. The reason I say that is because sometimes when we listen to all the negativity, we can decide we're not going to participate.
Precisely.
And it was instructive you spoke about the junior parade, the children's parade.
Yes.
Because I was speaking to someone who said that they were in a conversation and, you know, we had released workers a bit early that day. It was a Friday. Yes. And somebody in their conversation said, oh, them not going to wear because they hear that them not got no troop. Only must two troops they have. And I just found it interesting because the negative that was out there was affecting people's interest in the festival and whether people wanted to come out. And I saw a young lady, they said that she's an influencer from St. Kitts. I think they said her name was Lily, I believe. Yes. She was quite congratulatory of the Juve.
Yes.
But one of the things she said, which I found was instructive, she said, they always say Nevis thing boring and Nevis. And she came for the first time, and she can't believe how high the standard was and what a bar that was set. She had a ball, and she said she's going to be back next year. So I believe that we need to encourage our people here to ignore the noise and come and enjoy their Culturama festival. Right? Because, like you say, it doesn't belong to any of us. It belongs to all of us. And the attitude that some people have is, I'm going to stay out because of politics or whatever next time around, or I'm going to come in because of politics, and then another group say I'm going to stay out. Everybody needs to come in and be part of it. And I was so happy, despite the naysayers, to see how the Culturama eventually ended. That some of them, in my opinion, weren't even man and woman enough to come back and say, boy, I was wrong. And the Culturama was really good. But the reviews that I've had have been excellent, and congratulations to you and the entire team.
Thank you.
Okay.
Because Honorable Premier as well, I every year I still do voluntary work for Vaughan Radio, and so I would have been on the streets for Juve. I would have been at Herbert Beach, and I would have interviewed numerous persons. And all of the persons who I interviewed, both on Juve and Herbert Beach, everybody had something good to say about Culturama. I didn't randomly pick people who I think would say things that are good. I just spoke to people, and everybody who I spoke to were speaking glowingly about the festival. Glowingly about the festival. You know, so that really heartened me. Of course, as you rightly said, some that persons criticize for criticizing's sake. But I mean, as I said, when I speak about the shows in particular, I speak from a position of authority because I was there from the start of every show, and I was there until the end of every show. And so I can speak about the quality, I can speak about the attendance, and so I speak from a position of authority. And as I said, I got feedback from persons, and persons, I don't think persons would just come up to me and lie. Because there's no reason to do that. You know? So I am pleased, as I said, the feedback has really, really been good, and I'm really very happy with the way things unfolded for 652. And once again, I'm really proud of the committee for really delivering a festival of a very high standard.
Okay. All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, who I gave some time because as a minister, as the Deputy Premier of the island of Nevis, he wanted to report on Culturama 52. So thank you very much for that call and for that comprehensive report on what we all, I think, have to admit was an excellent Culturama season. I also want to join you in expressing condolences to the Clark family and to the family of my dear friend Mackie France on the loss of their loved ones. In both cases, centenarians that we've lost. We've lost two, and you say they were both 102 years old. So we thank God for their lives, and I hope that the prayers of all of us will comfort the families in this difficult time for them. Let me also extend my deepest condolences to Mr. Oban Lawrence, my dear friend, on the loss of his wife. She was a lifetime educator, a woman of class, a woman who contributed much, and I want to join so many in extending my condolences. I had the opportunity to speak to Teacher Oban by phone, and Teacher Oban, if you're listening, I extend my condolences to you publicly, and again, pray that the prayers of the multitude will comfort you in this difficult period. It's 20 minutes to the hour. Well, let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello?
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Premier. Can you tell us what's going on with the Destiny proposal? I know you mentioned that 4 things were sent back. And I also want to congratulate you, along with Mr. Joseph Parry, people like Livingston, Stoneman Williams, Carl Manners, Janet Hall, all of them, because you all are steadfast in not selling your land. And there's a situation with Mr. Parry. Can you tell us how that happened? Because, you know, Destiny would have wanted to acquire as much land as they could have, and Mr. Parry was able to get his back. Can you explain to how something like that would happen? Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. I don't know anything about Mr. Parry and his land. I think Mr. Parry is the best person to ask about his land and his situation in relation to his land. I was never approached about selling any land to Destiny, so you've congratulated me. I'm not sure why, but I was never involved with them, and nobody approached me about purchasing any land from me. In relation to the others that you've mentioned, well, if you say you want to congratulate them, then that's a matter for you and for them. Clearly, people have a right to determine what they do with their property, and in this case, land, car, house, whatever it is. If it belongs to people, then people have a right to determine what they do with it. That's a right that is protected by law. And that is the reason why I was always a little concerned when people were trying to suggest that the government was somehow forcing people to sell, or the government was somehow involved. Because just as you say, people have refused to sell. That is their right. So I think anybody who has decided to sell their property is because they have made that decision. they want to sell for whatever reasons, that's their private business. The government is not involved in that in any way, shape, or form. So I can't explain to you anything about Mr. Parry. That would be for Mr. Parry to explain. And I'm sure he's on radio pretty often. Every once in a while I hear him. So you'll have an opportunity to call in and ask him your questions. Let's go back to the phones and continue to take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Okay, we've lost that caller. Let's try this other caller, please. Caller, good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good night, my Premier.
Good evening to
How
you.
are you doing tonight?
I am good, thank you. You're on the air.
Okay. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yes, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility, for God resisteth the proud, and giving grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. That's the end of the scripture. May the Lord add his richest blessing unto it, and good night to you, and have a good night rest, okay?
Thank you very much, and thank you for a beautiful scripture as always. We are taking your calls. We have 16 minutes left, and we're going to try to get as many calls in as possible. Let's go back to the phones. No? Okay. Callers, the lines are free if you want to call in. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Just to repeat a commitment that I made earlier this evening, that I have asked the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, the advisor to my office, to engage with boat operators so that we can, in short order, get a ramp erected for our boaters, particularly for the water taxi operators. We understand that the hurricane season, we're in the middle of that, and that this is a gap in the infrastructure that we provide. So help is on the way. Help is on the way. We're working on that as we speak, and I believe that just today he would have met with the architect and visited one of the possible sites for this, but we will not do anything, of course, without consultation. So just to remind that I said that earlier. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening to you.
Calling again. Mr. Brantley, I'm calling to just to remind our friends and family of NEVDC's 21st Annual Honors Banquet. This year, our theme is Cultivating Tomorrow, Honoring Innovation and Leadership in Nivision Agriculture. And Mr. Brantley, this year, we're veering away from the traditional agriculturalists, who we honored about maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And we're going towards those who have aimed to bring some innovation and an entrepreneurial spirit into farming. And so this year, we're honoring Daniel Otterton, Ronald King, a.k.a. Banky, and Richard Paris. The event will be held on September 26th at 7:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. at Martin's Crosswind, Greenbelt, Maryland. Rooms are blocked.
Wait, repeat the location again. Martin's Crossing?
Martin's Crosswind.
How do you spell Martin?
M-A-R-T-I-N apostrophe S.
Okay, Crosswind.
Crosswinds.
Okay.
Greenbelt, Maryland.
Okay.
Tickets are $150, but we have a early bird special of $140, which lasts until September 7th. Tickets can be purchased at nev-dc.org. That's nev-dc.org. And of course, the ticket price includes the the brunch, which follows on the 27th. It starts at 12 noon and goes down until the New York people leave. There are some hotel rooms blocked out in the Holiday Inn Hotel, which is just a few feet away from the event center. I myself had some mixed ratings from our friends over the years, and some have complained about the hotel. If I'm being honest, some have said it's great.
The Holiday Inn,
but yes, the Holiday Inn. But I understand that they recently had some renovations.
Okay.
So hopefully it has improved, and as time goes on, I will be sending out some other hotels in the area.
So that is the hotel where you have rooms blocked, but of course people can choose to stay elsewhere if they so desire.
Yes.
Okay.
And those rooms are blocked until September 7th. Also, the entertainment this year will be by Image Band, Abena Amri, Delhi, and Corey. That's Corey Tyson. And of course, we have our raffles as usual. So we're looking forward to having everyone coming down. My only promise, I've always said, my only promise is that if you come once, you will want to come back again. So it's a great weekend. Just bring the family down for a weekend. And I keep saying down because most of our supporters are from New York, and we truly appreciate the New York folks because they're the ones who've thrown their strength behind us over the years.
Okay.
Most. Yeah.
All right. You last time I think you had given some numbers, so people want to call somebody to get information. Who can they call? What can you give us a number?
If you need information, call me, Saki. Call Obi, the president Anthony Pemberton, or any NEFDC member.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's the NEFDC event that's happening September 26th, right there in Maryland. And of course, NEFDC continues to do good work. We encourage all to go out and to support these diasporic associations. It's important. They always try to give something back, and we thank all the members, those at NEFDC and those at other such associations. Hearts and Hands comes to mind. In Canada, used to have NEFCAN and others who are engaged in, of course, making something available from their efforts abroad for those of us here at home. So we say thank you to them. It is 10 minutes to the hour. We continue to take your calls. Let's go straight back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Premier.
Good evening to you.
I just called you to find out about the latest development on the Newcastle Airport. Advanced W.
I have not this week had a report. I know, of course, we just came out of the Culturama season. I am aware that there was one issue that has been resolved in terms of certain payments. So I will get an update and come back because I like to speak from a position of accurate information. As you know, we had the ceremonial groundbreaking, but the actual construction, we expect that will kick off in short order. We had to do some, how should I put it? The original agreements that we contemplated had to do with both phases of the project. When I say phases, I mean the land, the air side and the land side. Air side meaning the runway and all of the works on that side, and the land side being the Island Main Road and all of that. I think that the team has now decided to do that in two different contractual arrangements. So that delayed us a bit to just divide that into two separate contracts as opposed to one. And so we're working on that. But I'll get some accurate information in terms of start times and all that. I confess this week I have not had an update.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. We have 8 minutes left. We're going to take some more calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Hello? Hello, caller. Are you there?
Member, yeah, I hear.
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah. Member Timothy said you can pay, you know.
Yes.
And he called Sean Moore.
Yes.
And he turned away 6 for you. And you said you was in the yard. and you come down Greenland and you say you're the sheriff in town and dog is ready like a monkey's red gun.
Yes.
So I don't know what yard you're talking about. And Timothy kind of stick by you. And he said you can't send.
Yes.
You understand?
Where's Timothy now?
Where Timothy be?
Yeah.
Is Timothy here?
Where he get turned with too?
He here what?
He get turned with too?
He get turned with what on him be?
With people?
The people?
Mm-hmm.
And he said he done got all 7 and he want one number 6.
Well, you could say you could say anything. You know, call a talk is cheap, whiskey costs money.
Oh, talk is cheap.
Yeah, you know that.
Oh, no that.
That's why people have mouth make to talk. You could say anything.
And you used to go on with Dougie when you used to be in the house was healthy. Tell him he gone over on this side. So which side you been on?
Well, that happens. I said he was going to be over on the opposition, and he was. He said he going to be back in government, and he was. So you never know. Government. Election coming again, we don't know what might happen.
Oh, but he said he going to win.
Well, we never can tell. So all we do is do our best, and we leave the rest to God, yeah?
Natasha go step down, and they want that Sean to be deputy leader. Sean shouldn't go nowhere, and be none.
So what would you suggest for Pam then? Who should lead?
Well, keep the PLP and keep Labour. Forget about Pam.
Forget about Pam altogether, but Pam is 60 years old. Are you going to just forget about Pam? Pam is a senior party in the Federation. You don't think so?
That is the business. Let us stay with the family. All I join up to get the lead a Labour. Remember that? Okay?
Yes, but that is true, caller. You're absolutely correct. But after we join up to get rid of Labour, things did not work out because people didn't intend to keep their word.
Oh, because you say you was in the yard.
Oh, right out in the yard.
Oh, you was under the tree.
But I wasn't in my tree. The sun, I think, is hot. I was.
Oh, the sun, okay.
Out there in the hot sun, yeah.
Okay, good night.
Good night. Thanks for calling. I really appreciate it. But caller, you know, you remember everything accurately. You clearly have this in your mind. You're clearly somebody who follows the politics. But what I will say is, yes, you are absolutely correct. Dr. Timothy Harris, as the Prime Minister, decided he would fire 6 of his members of cabinet. He did fire 6 of us, 3 of us from Nevis and 3 from PAM. But when he went to the polls, he had a full slate of candidates, and the people fired him. And since then, he making as much noise as a bongo drum, trying to find a way back in. Right? So we'll have to wait and see what the people decide. Their voice is the voice of God. Whatever they say, we have to abide by. But just the same way he fired me and fired my colleagues, the people end up firing him. And that is just the reality of the situation. Let's go back to the phones. We have 5 minutes left. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Premier Brantley.
Yes, good evening to you.
Yes. About your interview which you referred to a few days ago, how could you accept that it's your responsibility to activate the Public Accounts Committee, and yet when pressed about how you intend to do that and a timeline, you just parry the question? I don't understand. I mean, isn't that a responsibility of leadership? You know, you acknowledge that it's important. You said it's your responsibility, but you're not going to do it. Or you don't give him any indication that it's going to happen anytime soon. How do you explain that?
I don't think I need to explain anything, caller. I was being pressed for a date and a timeline, and I said I couldn't provide one. I don't know that there's any explanation that is necessary. I indicated that I could not.
Responsibility.
Yeah, well, caller, we have responsibilities. Responsibility and having a responsibility and acknowledging that we have a responsibility doesn't therefore translate into me being able on an interview to give a timeline. So it is as simple as that. I'm not sure what explanation you're seeking.
All right. Let's leave that.
Yes.
That's what we in teaching used to call a totally unacceptable answer. But anyway.
Well, that's a matter for you, caller. Yes.
Just to go on to something else. You probably would not have heard, but there was some feedback on the interview. this morning. And one of the things that was said was that you seem to not understand the term conflict of interest. And one caller observed that it's not just the actual conflict of interest, but even the appearance of conflict of interest that politicians should run from. In other jurisdictions, that's what they do. That's what a responsible politician would do, right? Some of them would resign even at the appearance, at the whiff of a conflict of interest. And this was in relation to the fact that your wife was apparently involved in the Destiny Project, almost as sole realtor or something like that. And you seem to be dismissive of it.
Okay, caller, I wish you had called in earlier because I would really have liked to engage with you, but we are 3 minutes from the end of the show. If you have another 2 minutes, actually, if you have another point to raise, could you do so quickly so we can wrap the show?
No. I mentioned that because you basically said that you're using the Public Accounts Committee as a millstone around your neck, and it was unfair. And I was just bringing up as something else to show that there are other things that you can be called out on.
Okay. All right, caller. Okay. Well, the good thing for me, thank God, is that some people calling me out doesn't move the needle. And so it really doesn't matter, because if I were to descend from heaven with manna, I am pretty sure that people like you would still call me out, because that's what you do. So I am not.
You should be held accountable.
Being held accountable is fine. That is why we're here. Being held accountable by persons who are selective in what they say is really neither here nor there, as far as I'm concerned.
That was not true about not calling out other government about the Public Accounts Committee.
Well, Cole, I don't know. I don't tend to listen. I'm not somebody who's given to listening all the shows.
I'm just pointing out that it was not directed at you alone.
Okay.
We've been talking about this for ages.
Okay, fair enough. We have to leave it there. Next week, please call in early so we could have a conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, the band is striking up. That means we have to go. I heard this last call. I'm sorry I don't really have much time to respond, but what I will say to the caller is that, sometimes I listen to the people, and as I said, it really matters not. There will never be an occasion when this caller or people of his ilk have anything good to say about Mark Brantley's leadership. Never. It will always be a criticism, because that is what they're programmed to do. And that is why I say to him and to others, what they say really is of no consequence. It rolls off my back, because they will never have any honest opinion about what's happening. It is always some negativity. Now, this talk about my wife is a realtor, and I've explained that time and time again. She's been a business owner since long before I got into politics. She is representing those who are developers of this Destiny Project in relation to land transactions, reaching out to persons asking if they're minded to sell their land. People have said, oh, it's your wife, so she shouldn't be doing that. Well, if that is the case, then she shouldn't be doing any business at all. Because if she has a client who needs an alien license, for example, the government that I lead has to grant that. So, at what point do we make these distinctions? Some people make these arguments because they think it's convenient to make. I have made it very clear, my wife does not represent the government that I lead. She's not selling any land for and on behalf of the government. She's not buying any land on behalf of the government. She's not making any commission of my government. Beyond that, you now start to get into the perception of conflict. Well, where does that lead, caller? And that is the question I always... Is it a conflict if my best friend from high school is doing something for the government? That my cousin, or that my brother or sister, or my girlfriend? Where do you draw the line in a society this size? A lot of you just talk because you have the benefit of a tongue in your head. And you just say things because they sound good. But when tested, really and truly, if you're dealing with a perception of conflict, then do you realize that this qualifies almost everybody in the country? And that is just the reality of the situation. So I don't bother to get into all of that. I am here to do my job and to do it to the best of my ability. The Public Accounts Committee, like you say, is important. I'm not trying to say it is not, but you shouldn't judge my leadership simply by that. I bring a lot more to the table. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Good night, and God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its